From Family First and former National Party MP Simon O'Connor. Kia ora, thanks for your time today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Andrew. I feel terribly underdressed compared to your good self here on sort of a casual Wednesday for a Family First crew member.
That's absolutely fine. And hey, that's one of the great things about being a former MP. Don't have to wear a tie to work anymore, Simon. That season for you has passed. It would be interesting, though, looking at what's happening in Parliament and some of the own goals that have happened. Let's start with the Green Party. Now, this is a policy that they've been working on for some time. It was sponsored by one of the co-leaders of the party, the Consumer Guarantees the Right to Repair Amendment Bill. This was a big deal for them, and yet didn't turn up to the first reading of their own bill. It's been kicked to touch.
It has been, and I have to admit, I feel a little bit sorry actually for Marama Davison because I watched the video,
Yep.
and certainly true, she did not turn up when the speaker called for her to speak. She wasn't there, but it was only, let's say, 10, 15 seconds later that she appeared. So look, on one side, she should have been there. You know, if it's the big deal they say it is, you turn up. And as a politician, you know that things in Parliament can go faster or slower. But on the other hand, there are parliamentary rules, and long and short, another MP got up and started a speech, which effectively, if I remember the rules correctly, puts an end to the Greens there. But it was a bit of a mess, as you say, untidy, not a good look. But again, I'm a little bit sorry for her.
A little bit harsh from the speaker, some people are saying. But to be fair, if you're only turning up for your own stuff, if you're only turning up in Parliament when it's your turn to speak, if you're not in Parliament for... And look, we see this for sad political tragics like me who watch political television. You see, hey, look, where is everybody else? They're on the... they're being paid for by the taxpayer. There's quite often debate in Parliament with very few people in the House. It's kind of like going to a prize giving and only clapping when your own kid gets their award, really. If you only turn up for your stuff rather than being there for the process of Parliament, I mean, what's your lived experience? Should you be there for all of it, regardless of your political stripes or flavour?
The short answer is no. It's just not possible for at least two reasons. One is Parliament sits from basically 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
That's a very long time to be seated simply in the chamber. So that's just a pragmatic reason. The second is actually the MPs are in the wider Parliament. We'll often have the TV and the radio on listening,
Yep.
but we're doing other things. It's select committees, for example, answering constituent inquiries, reading up on our policies, drafting the laws. So I understand why people get frustrated when they see an empty House. But look, just practically, we cannot expect all the work of MPs and for them to be in the House, for eight hours straight.
Yeah. No, and hey, that is fair enough. But for something as important as this that the Greens had to work towards, and to be fair, they've had a few other own goals and some problems with their lineup over this last year. This could have been a positive policy statement for them, but a missed opportunity. In contrast, though, looking a lot better than Te Paati Maori at the moment. What a week it's been for them.
Well, what a week, what a month, what months, really. I mean, gosh, in many ways, Andrew, this all starts with the alleged corruption at the Manarewa Marae, and obviously the suggestion that actually the then Labour MP, Penny Hanare, lost out. It was by 42 votes. So there's been those investigations. But now you've got the, implosion. There's one group of revolutionaries are not happy with the other. So Tutu to Treaty.
Yep.
So that's Kapa-Kingi's group, fracturing with the wider Maori party. But I wrote about this in a Substack a few weeks ago. For me, this is, well, as I say, one, it's revolutionary people. The first set of revolutionaries are always replaced by the next. And so the Te Paati Maori are not radical enough. And it's also very tribal. Eru is now backing his mum. And I see the new MP, Orini Kaipara, is also backing her against, if you will, other members of a different tribe. So it's just fascinating. Well, fascinating for us, not so good for them.
Yeah, Te Paati's Māori would be a more accurate description. They are literally fractioning into two parties, and they're not that big a party in the first place. We have seen this before, and not just with the Māori party. I mean, we had a situation where somebody says, well, I'll be independent independent for a while, and it was Honi Harawira, of course, that did that historically within the Māori Party. What will happen from here if there is a total division, if some of the people who are elected in from the Māori seats say, well, we're not part of Te Paati Māori anymore? There'll be different parties, there'll be independents in the House. What will that look like going forward?
It'll be hard for me to explain succinctly because it's not actually straightforward. One of the laws that was passed a few years back, we colloquially call waka jumping. It comes from Winston Peters. He didn't like it when New Zealand First MPs were literally jumping out of his waka and going independent. So long and short, it's not that easy for an MP, particularly list MPs, to leave their party because those parties, be it Te Paati Maori, or I know you use Pāti Māori, to use proper Māori, it'd have to be Ngā Māori Party now.
Yes, it would be.
So we keep those people happy. But it would be very hard for them to go independent because the Māori Party needs to be able to keep its whole percentage. And you can imagine if the Māori Party were to keep its MPs, 3 go rogue, well, you can't have now 7 affiliated. So it's untidy and messy, and you could possibly see MPs going independent from Te Paati Māori actually having to leave the Parliament.
Wow, but hey, these aren't list MPs. They are elected in the local electorate, and this is part of it. I mean, you said tribalism beforehand, that you have people are saying, hey, I'm representing this particular part of New Zealand, this particular iwi and hapu have voted me in. I'm more accountable to them who elected me than I am to the party that I was representing, but that's not necessarily how it works in Parliament, right?
No, and it'll turn into a big bun fight, and in many ways it already is. There's a war of words, and I see this morning too. And look, this is the cynical ex-politician in me, but there's been a lot of talk from Te Paati Māori about their tikanga and their kawa. But now they're racing off to the courts, the colonial courts, as they would call them, to try and seek remediation. So it's very untidy, including to their wider messaging. And, I don't think, though, as a quick observation, Andrew, it will make any difference to their voting base. I think the voting base is generally supportive of their activism, despite these splits.
Will it split the vote literally, though? If there ends up being 2 parties, and as we say, there is precedent for this, will this split the loyal vote for Te Paati Māori and leave a space for Labour to reclaim the Māori seats next election? That could be a more elegant solution for Chris Hipkins, of course, is a little bit shy of saying, hey, these guys, they look like uncomfortable coalition partners, but if Labour takes back the Māori seats, perhaps doesn't need to have that conversation.
Look, I think it's a very astute analysis, if I may say so. I think, look, if there is a split in the Māori seats, or the vote of the Māori seats, it does present an opportunity to Labour. I think Māoridom, to the extent that I can reflect on it, will push quite strongly to keep some sort of unity. But the wider dynamic too, Labour, if it is going to retake the Treasury benches next year, will need Te Paati Māori and the Greens to do so, just as National needs New Zealand First and ACT. But Chris Hipkins knows, as I think most of your viewers and listeners will know, that having the likes of Te Paati Māori actually in government, that's not a popular look. And so Hipkins is in a difficult position, but I would say he'll probably call them out in the end, but the pressure will have to build further.
Some policy announcements in the last week, it would be fair to say that they weren't particularly well handled, with Chris Hipkins not being aware that one of the key policies had been announced, and was caught on the hop with journalists explaining to him his own party's policy, and that it had been announced. That's never a good look. And, in particular, the capital gains tax, this was talked about in media by the government's finance minister before it was talked about by the Labour Party. That is a horrific start.
Yeah, look, it's bad optics. They will not be happy at all. It's untidy. It's messy. Let's not gild the lily on this, and they will be angry. But I can also understand to a degree how this has happened. When you're in opposition, you don't have legions of staff and officials to help you.
Yep.
It's actually a very small team, and it's primarily the MP. So look, administratively, Andrew, I can see how things get mixed up in the diaries, announcements go early or late. What'll be more of a worry to Labour is that their capital gains tax was leaked.
Yep.
Their policy was leaked, and that is a sign of major problems, dissension, and potentially egos at play within the party.
And a sign perhaps that somebody within the Labour Party or even the Labour Party caucus does not have confidence in Chris Hipkins to lead the party, or is that stretching a bow too far, Simon?
No, I think it's quite possible. I mean, look, this could be an accidental leak. You know, someone's literally and accidentally left a document in the Parliamentary cafe, right through to, as you say, someone who actually doesn't like Chris Hipkins and wants to do all and anything to damage him. Could be someone within the party who just fundamentally disagrees with the policy, or it's someone on staff. A mole, if you will. I'm not suggesting placed there by another party, but a staffer who is working for Labour but has sentiments to, let's say, the right, and it decided this is something they want to do. They think they're in House of Cards. There's a whole lot of reasons that it could happen, but regardless, it's a bad look, and it will be making the party and Chris Hipkins very nervous. In the same way, to be fair, Andrew, when National was in opposition, and we sort of rolled from one mess to another.
Yeah, it's certainly you have lived experience of what it's like to have leaks and perhaps a revolving door in terms of party leadership in that regard. But hey, I don't want to traumatise you in any way. So just finally on this one, though, this is a tremendous opportunity for the incumbent government, particularly National, to gain some political capital from this. Now, the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, of course, he's overseas at the moment. I'm sure he's doing some very important stuff, but he seems to be out of town quite a lot this year. Nicola Willis did a sterling job responding to the leak and fronting media. Erica Stanford. Erica Stanford goes from strength to strength in that regard. But is this a missed opportunity from National to not make more of this? Should Christopher Luxon be prioritising, I suppose, gaining political capital from this?
Short answer is yes, but it is a bit hard when you are overseas travelling. I actually think, this trip that he's undertaking at the moment is important, but I think it's also fair to say Christopher enjoys this part of the job. He enjoys travelling and meeting people and shaking hands. And look, let's be blunt, it is coming with political cost because actually people do want their Prime Minister back at home. Comes with nuance, of course, because generally you see a little bit of a poll bounce often when PMs are overseas. But at the same time, I think, you see in the polls, National isn't doing as well as it would like. And I think part of it is they want a government and a leadership which is quite strong and assertive. And this is, again, you can't blame the Prime Minister for being away. It's just slightly unfortunate timing.
Given the performance that we've shown from the left, they are doing quite well in the polls at the moment, regardless of who's overseas and what photo opportunities they get. Would you expect there to be a bit of a bounce right in response to what we've seen in the last couple of weeks? And if we don't see that, is that, concerning for National in your view?
I think the polls in general will concern the government. They would expect to be higher in a first term. But I actually don't expect to see much of a shift in the next coming weeks, despite everything we've talked about, the chaos on the left, partly because I think people are not necessarily picking up all the details. They just hear there was a policy announcement and the government didn't like it, and they don't pick up on the small things. The other is, at the moment, the polls are down for the government because people are frustrated. The price of butter, the price of fuel, everything. But it's easy to be frustrated at the government at the moment. There's no real cost to that. And so I suppose my argument, Andrew, is as we get closer to the election, those people who are frustrated, are they really going to move their vote? Maybe they will. maybe they will. But at the moment, it's easy to say that you'll vote for a Te Paati Maori Greens national bloc. There's no cost to that. But yeah, give it 6 or 9 months, and then the reality of what you're suggesting, or not you, I mean, but the voters are suggesting. But yeah, anyway, sorry, very long answer.
Well, hey, let's see whether we have a great summer holidays and the economy boosts a little bit as we head into the new year. That also, of course, likely to make a difference. Simon, appreciate your wisdom and insight on this. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.